Today, as we celebrate the fantastic feast day of the basilicas of Peter and Paul, I'm called to mind the really famous Circus of Nero just outside of the city walls of Rome. It was a nice, long, kind of oval horse track, and it would be the site of many circuses and events in the city of Rome. And right in the center of Nero's circus was a grand, giant obelisk that the Romans took from Egypt when they conquered it. I think it was being built or just about finished for the city of Heliopolis, and they hadn't actually yet carved the hieroglyphics into the obelisk. It was that brand new. And when the Romans came to Egypt and conquered it, what the Romans loved to do was to take anything and everything that they possibly could from the place that they conquered and then transport it back to the city of Rome. So the Emperor Caligula did this, and what happened is they would have a triumphal entry into Rome. They would take everything that they took from the land they conquered, they put it on on carts or on horseback, and they would have a giant parade into the city through the main street, showing all the things that they took. And at the very, very back of the triumphal entry would have been the triumphant generals. Everybody would line the street, and they would laud the generals for their great conquests. And so what Caligula did is he took this obelisk from Egypt, took it to Rome, put it right in the center of this circus. It is in this circus, in the year 64 AD, St. Peter is martyred and crucified upside down. And it's very, very plausible that that obelisk is one of the very last things that he would have seen on this earth. It's very, very possible that as he's hanging upside down in agony, dying, looking at this obelisk, you have to wonder what was going through his mind, right? That he doesn't have the same grand scope of history that we do, and he has no idea whether this church, this fledgling followers of Christ that he set up kind of around the world, but especially in Rome, he has no idea how they will survive, if they will survive. Certainly he trusts in our Lord's providence. But you can imagine a lot of the doubt and fear and uncertainty in his mind as he looks at this obelisk and as he dies. For 1,700 years, the Basilica of St. Peter has stood on the site of Nero's circus. And that obelisk is right in the center of St. Peter's Square. You've all seen that obelisk. It's sitting right in the center. It's gigantic. It's beautiful. It's great. Anybody and everybody who's visited that church has walked right by it. And that obelisk in that church is a monument to the great reversal of fortune that happened, right? That grand empire that put Peter to death, that people truly believed could never end, right? The fall of Rome was such a traumatic experience for all of Europe because people believed that this empire simply couldn't fall. That empire fell. And the man that empire put to death has one of the grandest buildings in all of human history built over his grave, right? And that obelisk that he died staring at is right in front of his church. Right? And the reason for that is not because of anything that Peter did. Peter, to be gentle on him because he's a saint, but he really kind of messed up quite a bit. And in the moment of Christ's agony and death, he betrayed him and fled. And St. Paul, right? Persecuted Christians for several years until he himself was literally knocked down on the road by Christ. That our Lord chose Peter and Paul not really because of their skill or because of their great holiness or because of their great competence. He could have chosen way better people. But they were made fruitful because of their faithfulness. Right? That St. Peter dying in that circus could only be faithful to our Lord with his very life. And for even as little as that is, right? He's just a mere man. But for as little as that offering was, our Lord made literally, right, a 2,000-year church out of it with 1 billion members. And we now, thousands of years later, across an ocean and a continent he didn't even know about, right, are going to Mass. Like, what a tremendous thing. That the church is built upon the faith of these two men who simply had that, faith. And they gave our Lord what they had. And they very ardently, purposely lived out their calling as Christians. And those churches are a monument to their faith. And I think as we are in this church this afternoon, let's make it a monument of our faith too, right? That for as tiny as we are, as little as I am, just a priest here in middle of nowhere, Arizona, right? If we're faithful, our Lord can do a lot with us, even if we're hanging upside down dying, right? If we're faithful, our Lord can do wondrous things of us, because it doesn't matter our power, or our greatness, or our strength. What matters is his. And it's to that Lord that we offer this Mass this afternoon, right? Trusting in his faithfulness, that through the witness of St. Peter and St. Paul, he has been with his church for 2,000 years. And as members of his church gathered here together, let's make ourselves faithful to him, right? Here and now today, to just dedicate ourselves to living in love for him and being faithful even in those tiny things as our Lord asks of us.